emergency contact? Who should we notify in the case of death? Welcome to the USP, where I've spent the last 2+ decades of my life. I've been out here a year and some change. I got out last year, August 10th, 2022. As much as I want to move away from my prior life, as far as being incarcerated, as far as things have to do with the prison system and all that, it's hard. One, I'm still on probation, so I'm still going through all the hoops and hurdles that it takes to move on with my life. But not only that, I have friends in there that are stuck in there. I have some friends that's been down 30-something years, and unfortunately, some of them might never come home. This last couple of weeks, it's just, there's been incidents that just reminds me, or not even remind me because I haven't forgotten, but just emphasize the life that we live. I have a couple of young homies out here that are still doing their thing. They were out there, they got caught up in the RICO in 2006. They did a few years, between 6 and 8 years, and they all came home. They all did their times in the FCI. They all been home for about 10 years, 8-10 years, And just last couple of weeks, like I said, they're out there running around doing their thing or whatever, hustling, and got caught up. One of them bailed out, another one's still in there, but they know the case is gonna go federal. If you get caught up here out in the state, for having a pistol, for being a restricted person, having a pistol, you might just go do a 0 to 5. Out here in Utah, we have 0 to 5, 1 to 15, fight of life. 0 to 5 meaning third-degree felony. 1 to 15, second-degree felony, and fight of life for a first-degree felony. But the state, these people that when they arrest you, they want to give it to you, they want to be able to give you the most time they can. So they know that you're going to get off with just a little time in the state. They drop the case and let the feds pick it up. And when the feds pick it up, they have minimum mandatory. I believe they abolished the minimum mandatory, but you still go through a point system. Being a restricted felon with a firearm, just having a felony starts you at a certain category. Having a firearm puts you at another category, and so on and so forth. When times like these come about, I can't help but feel a sense of guilt. Because these youngsters, they're not young anymore, they're grown-ass men. They're in their 30s, early 40s. But I've known them since we were kids. Since they were babies. Our family migrated to America. We were refugees from the killing fields during the Pol Pot era. Our family fled Cambodia and got, sponsored to come to America in the 80s. And there was like 4 families that came together that we've always kept in touch. We all lived in California together in Modesto, in the same apartment projects. We all moved back to Utah. Like we all first came and landed in Utah. And then we ended up moving to California for about 7 years. Then our family started migrating, started coming back to Utah in 92 and 93. And again, I've known these kids since they were babies. Of all of our family, of all the siblings and the kids, of all the family, I was the oldest. So when I started running around in the streets, these youngsters followed in my footsteps. You know, before I got locked up in 95 on my first bid, I would see them around emulating me, you know, wearing our colors and throwing up our gang sign and this and that. And I would always discourage them to be part of this life. Because, you know, I'm the type of person in for a penny, in for a pound. So when I started running around and things escalated, I committed myself to it. But I already knew that there wasn't anything positive that was going to come out of this. You know, some people ask me, how were you able to prepare yourself for the penitentiary? I don't know how you prepare yourself for the penitentiary, but living the life that I lived, I expected to be in my near future. So, and I wasn't afraid of it. So when I did end up getting locked up, for me, it was just part of the life that I bought into. You know, I have friends that's been killed. You know, and again, I really don't know how I feel about that stuff. I mean, it's a sad loss, but it's just when I see, you know, my aunts, we call them, you know, in our culture, anybody that's our parents' age, we call them our aunts and our uncles. But these were more than just somebody that was my parents' age that I called my aunt and my uncle. These are people that I've known my whole life since I was a baby that are really like my aunts and my uncles. And, you know, when I see one of my aunts, her son was the same age as me. He was from MHS, Modesto Hit Squad. I was on a home visit in 95 before I caught my federal case when I just got a juvie. I was sitting at home and on a home visit, and the phone rang. So I was on the computer playing chess. So I picked up the phone. It was my aunt. She was still living in California. I said, "Hey, is your dad home?" I said, "Yeah, they're home." She was, "Your brother just died in the hospital." I was like, "What?" You know, it didn't really register to me at that time. You know, she called my homeboy my brother because we grew up together. And he was like a year or two older than me. And he started gangbanging before me. He was doing it out there in Modesto. He's like, "Yeah, he just, he died at the hospital. He got shot up. They rushed him to the hospital and he didn't make it." You know, I'm not sure even to this day how to receive those type of information. So I said, "All right, hold on, let me go get my dad." So I took the phone, gave it to my parents. 3 days later, my parents caught the plane, went to Modesto to the funeral. You know, I couldn't leave state, so I never got a chance to say my goodbyes to them. But fast forward, being out here living this life, you know, I see the youngsters trying to emulate us. And every time I saw them, I would chase them off. I would discourage them from trying to be a part of what we were doing. But I got locked up in 95. I got locked up for 3 years, from 95 to 98. I was in the FCI Florence. And during that time, some of the youngsters was writing me letters over there. And one of the letters like, "Hey, call me." So I get on the phone, because you're like my little brothers, you know. So I get on the phone, I call home. Like, "Hey, man, what's up? What you doing?" It's like, "Yeah, what's up now, fool?" It's like, "What?" "Yeah, you can't do nothing about it now." I'm like, "Man, what the fuck you talking about?" "Yeah, I'm in the hood now." You know, when I was gone, I wasn't here to stop them from getting involved, from running around. So during the time that I was gone, they all got put on and started gangbanging in the hood. And fast forward later, when I got out in 98, some of them was running around with me. I had two brothers that went to prison for a bank robbery that they didn't do. They got arrested, got picked up. Because, in the Valley, when certain things happen and it's associated with the Asian group, we're one of the first suspects that come up. And they kicked in the homie's door and arrested him, the two brothers. They know they didn't do it. They know who did. But because, they were raised to be solid and to not cooperate, they let the system convict them of bank robbery. And then, as you know, I went and got convicted of another bank robbery and a bunch of other robberies and everything, ended up getting sentenced to 26 years. But these guys got out in 2006. They RICO'd my whole hood. They arrested about 35 homies, and our hood made the newspaper. Not the newspaper as far as the crimes that we were committed, but the newspaper as far, what they say in the newspaper is like, it's like the first time in history that a whole organization, not even, they try to label us an organization, so they call it an organization. They try to say we're a criminal enterprise. But we're just a bunch of goofy kids running around gangbanging, doing dumb shit. But of all the people they indicted, none of the homies cooperated with the system. And so when they all felt like they could beat the case because none of them was telling. Everybody was staying solid. Everybody was adamant about going to trial. But while I was in Beaumont, I think I mentioned this before, they called me. They said, hey, they're trying to offer us a plea. They say if somebody takes the body, the rest of us can get 10 or less. I told him, man, 10 years ain't nothing. I've already been down 8 at this time. So I told him to call the homie Lot and have a conversation with him. And the young homie Lot decided to take 30 years for the body. And him pleading guilty to the body allowed everybody else to get 10 years and less. And everybody went home. But, we were the third crew out here in Salt Lake that the feds hit with the RICO. The RICO was reserved for the mobsters. They came about the RICO to try to take down the Italian mob. Because when they arrested a soldier, the soldier wasn't telling. Because the soldier didn't, when they arrested a soldier for a murder or for a robbery, they couldn't link the soldier up to the higher ups. So they came up with this made up case, a RICO, running a criminal enterprise. So now, if you're associated with somebody and they can see there's money being moved or somebody benefited from whatever work they put in, now they're saying that you're committing a crime to further your organization and to further your status within the organization. So really, now they can use the RICO to hit anybody they want. The first gang out here in Utah that was RICO was KMD. And they got RICO on a murder where a dude called from the state prison to put a hit on somebody out here. And they used that phone call to tie all their homies up and RICO'd them. The second RICO in 2002, 2001 was SAC. They were doing whatever they were doing. They were sending letters out to give instructions for people to make moves. But the person they were sending the letters out was photographing it, sending a copy to the feds before they forward the letter to whoever it was supposed to go to. So when the feds came in and picked them up, they had all sorts of evidence on them. Now I had an attorney that represented me that represented each one of those people, somebody from each one of those indictments. And this is from her words. Every time, everybody was telling on each other. Yeah, there were solid dudes on those cases, but a lot of their homies told on them. So my attorney on our RICO had represented my homeboy, Monkey. So when they went to court to represent him, the prosecutor jumped up and was like, hey, she needs to be recused from this case. Talking about my attorney, that she needed to be recused. And the prosecutor argued that she was representing me, that it was a conflict of interest. But my case has already been done and over with. I'm done. I'm already serving my time. And I don't have nothing to do with the RICO. So my attorney was like, hey, what? Are you going to RICO Mesa? Are you going to RICO Mesa? Are you going to indict Mesa? And the prosecutor never gave her an answer. So I'm sitting over there in Beaumont holding my nuts. Because I already got 26 years. I can't really stand another 10, But what saved me from the RICO was I've already passed the 7-year statutory limitation. That's a real thing now. After 7 years, unless it's murder, they can't come back and get you. I had to have, the time that I was in prison, I didn't have any phone calls or any relations with any of the criminal activities that the homie was out here doing, or whatever they considered criminal activity. So I never got brought into RICO, but I already had a 26-year sentence anyway. But going back, our hood was one, I don't want to say in history because, most people that get indicted, all their homies telling each other. Like I said, ours is small. All of us is family. We're all related somehow. My cousin or my homeboys and their brothers and their cousin. It's a real tight-knit crew. And, like I said, I've been fortunate through the grace of the period that I was locked up was the homies always looked out. Every time I called, somebody always picked up the phone and always made sure that I was able to get what I needed. And for that, I'm grateful for them. Coming home now, the reason for my podcast, these things that I'm doing, is I'm really trying to move away from that life. Just because I know that it's rough, man. But it's not just rough on the individual that's locked up. It's rough on the family that's left behind. One of my homeboys that's involved in this incident, he's got 2 kids. One of them is dying, and he just had a baby. It's about maybe 8 months.
It sounded like you said one of them is dying.
Oh, no. Okay, start over. My homeboy that got caught up in his he got caught slipping, and they pulled him over with a pistol. But he's already a felon. He was able to bail out. He's back out now, but we already know that the feds gonna come pick it up. And that knowledge weighs heavy on everybody. Because, the system is just not hard on the individuals that's incarcerated. It's on their family. He's got a 9-year-old son. Last night we were at dinner and he was just, he's an incredible kid, and they've sheltered him as far as about what's going on, and he has no clue about what's coming. And he's just a happy-go-lucky kid, really animated kid. I really like that kid. But he also has a newborn that's about 8 months old. Look just like him. Again, it's not hard on us that has to do time. We have no choice. We go in there, we sit in that box, and we get through it. Yeah, maybe the environment that we're in is dangerous and hectic, but it's not compared to the people out here in the street that have to get up every morning, take care of their family, put food on the table, keep a roof over their head. You know, I had a hard time enjoying the dinner because, you know, when I looked across, I could see his wife. She's on the verge of tears. I see him trying to keep it in. And then his little 9-year-old son is just happy-go-lucky talking about the upcoming holidays. You know, how he doesn't really like Thanksgiving. He can just wish he can just skip Thanksgiving and go directly to Christmas. You know, and all the Christmas and what we're gonna do for Christmas. We're sitting there planning a Christmas party. And my homeboy had to get up and walk away because, you know, seeing your kids sit there and talk about that, getting so excited, and then in the back of your mind, you know you might not be here for that. And you know you might not be here for however many more years down the road. Yeah. A lot of people is affected by our actions. You know, they came out here, they got comfortable. You know, the economy's in some shit. So they needed a way to compensate their income to take care of their family. And they end up getting caught slipping. You know, a couple of my other homeboy, he's facing, you know, a career offender for the same shit. But he didn't get bailed out. The feds already put a hold on him already. And he just happened to call home while we were at the dinner. So yesterday was just an emotional day. And it makes you think about, you know, the time that you spent in there and all the life you miss out here. You know, I miss all my brothers and sisters growing up. When I left, my baby brother was 8 years old. You know, he's 33 now, I think 33, married, got 2 beautiful kids. You know, I don't really know what direction I'm going on with this video. I just wanted to really emphasize that, you know, if you're out there running around, homie, it's not just you that's going to be affected by your actions. It's going to be your parents, it's going to be your siblings, and it's going to be your kids. You know, I don't know if I was fortunate or not, but I didn't have any kids when I went in. I don't have any kids now. So when I went in, and my siblings, they had my parents to take care of them. So it didn't wear me down as much as, you know, if I had a child out here having to grow up without me. And I see my friends in there that are raising their kids behind the wall. I hear them on the phone. You know, and sometimes when they hang up that phone, you can just look on their face and you can see that it's eating them up, that they're in turmoil because whatever's going on with their family, with their children out there in the world, they can't be a part of it. They can't do anything about it. So if you guys are listening to this, if you got friends and families out there that's running around, man, whatever monetary gain you feel you can gain from living outside the law, from hustling or whatever, I'm here to tell you it's not worth the years that you're going to lose out with your family. Welcome to the USP.